This man saved the life of a small foal lying helpless in the pasture. He saw the little one lying in the field when he was driving through this wild country. When he saw what was happening, he could not just drive away. He jumped into action and started helping the horse, but just as he was busy with the rescue mission, the foal's mother sprang into action. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. When Robert spent a well-deserved weekend away from everyday life, he decided to take a long drive across the picture-perfect plains that the area boasted. Deep in thought, he drove by fields of tall grass. Robert really needed to get away from his busy everyday working life, and this little trip to the middle of nowhere was just what the doctor ordered. But pretty soon, he would wish that there were more people around here. His drive was absolutely mesmerizing, until he suddenly heard a sound that put an end to his moment of peace. It was almost inaudible, but unmistakable to Robert. This sound came from a newborn foal in distress. Quickly, Robert looked around to see if he could see the foal sticking out somewhere above the grass. Robert did his best to follow the faint whining of the animal. Without a second thought, Robert pulled over and parked his car by the side of the road. He got out and made his way toward the foal, who looked up at him with big, trusting eyes. He carefully approached the foal, speaking softly to it in a soothing voice. Slowly, he reached out his hand and stroked the little horse's mane. It also was over 95 degrees that day, and for this horse, there was no shade in sight. He had to move the horse. He knew he had to act fast, but he had no idea how to take care of a horse. He had no experience with horses, but he knew he had to try. Robert quickly ran back to his vehicle and found a piece of rope. He gently tied the rope around the foal's neck and tried to lift her head off the ground. He hoped that maybe with some effort, he could get her on her feet and make it over to a line of trees in the distance. Slowly but surely, the foal began to struggle to its feet. The little horse was wobbling on its legs, but it managed to stand up. Robert was elated. He couldn't wait to get the foal to safety. As he began to lead the foal towards the line of trees, he saw a shadow out of the corner of his eye. He turned to look and saw a full-grown horse walking towards him, and immediately knew that this was the foal's mother who had come to check on her child. She walked up to Robert and the foal, her eyes fixed on her baby. Robert thought about backing away, but he knew that if he let go of the rope, the foal would fall over again. He stood his ground, waiting to see what the horse would do until the mother horse stopped in front of him. He tried to stay calm, not wanting to spook the mother horse. He slowly lowered his head, a sign of submission in the animal world. What happened next was amazing. The mother horse seemed to understand that Robert was not a threat, and she walked up to the foal and nuzzled it lovingly. Robert watched in amazement as the mother horse licked the foal all over. She was grateful to Robert for trying to save her child and knew that he meant no harm. And the affection of the mother horse didn't even stop there. The little foal lost its balance and fell to the ground again, and Robert, who a minute ago had a firm on the rope, felt it slip between his fingers. The wounded child fell to the ground again, and they were still almost 150 feet away from the nearest shade. Come on, little one. Work with me a little bit. But this time he wasn't alone in picking the foal off the ground. It was no human who would help him, but a strong wild horse who trusted Robert completely. Robert watched as the mother horse carefully lifted the foal's head up from the ground, just like he had done before. But he saw that the foal was struggling. She could walk slowly, but it was clear to him that she needed professional help, or else the wound would surely get infected. He picked up his phone. He called Animal Patrol and explained the situation at hand. They promised to send a large truck over so that the foal could be transported to a nearby animal hospital. But because Robert was so far out in the middle of nowhere, she said that it would take them over an hour to get there. Robert promised to keep the animals company until they arrived. After the call, Robert finished his part of the rescue mission. The shade was now only a few footsteps away. He slowly led the foal towards the line of trees, with the mother horse following closely behind. As they reached the trees, Robert noticed a small stream running through them. He knew that this would be the perfect place for the foal and the mother horse to rest. After about an hour, Robert heard the sound of a truck approaching. He got up and waved to the driver, who pulled over next to him. Robert explained the situation, and the driver got out to assess the situation. Together, they carefully lifted the foal onto the back of the truck, with the mother horse watching their every move. Robert watched as the truck drove away with a sense of sadness. He himself would drive with his own truck behind them, so he didn't have to say goodbye just yet. But the sight of the baby horse in the truck still looked sad. After the animal patrol dropped the foal off at the hospital, Robert drove back to his village. He couldn't stop thinking about the little foal and the mother horse. The drive seemed to take forever, and when he finally got home, he immediately called the hospital. He explained the situation to the receptionist, who promised to get back to him as soon as she had any news. Finally, the phone rang, and it was the hospital. The foal was doing well, and they had been able to treat its wounds. Robert let out a sigh of relief. A few days later, he drove out to the animal hospital to check on the foal's progress. When he arrived, he was greeted by the veterinarian, who thanked him for his quick thinking. The foal was doing well and was now ready to go back into nature. They started the truck, and Robert got in the passenger seat. As they drove through the field, Robert couldn't help but feel nervous. What if they couldn't find the mother horse? But just as he was about to convince himself that this was probably going to be impossible, he saw her in the distance. She had been waiting for her foal's return, and as soon as she saw the truck, she started running toward it. Robert watched in amazement as the mother horse greeted her foal with nuzzles and whinnies. Luna nuzzled her mother back, happy to be back at her side. Robert felt tears welling up in his eyes at the sight of their reunion. He knew that he had done the right thing, and he was glad to have been a part of her journey. As he drove back to his village, Robert couldn't stop smiling. He had saved a life and had witnessed the bond between a mother and her child. From that day on, Robert made a promise to himself to always help animals in need whenever he could. He knew that he may not always be able to save them, but he would always try. And as he looked back at the mother and foal disappearing into the vast open field, he knew that his life had been forever changed by this experience.